In a recent poll, you clearly told me that you have some challenges with achieving your goals, at least some of the time. So, how do you set your goals up for achievement? How do you construct them in a way and think about them in a way that makes them easier and actually possible to achieve? I've been through this process tons of times, and I wanted to share 5 ideas about how to think about your goals to make them more achievable and to get yourself fired up to pursue them. Idea number one: ditch SMART goals. If you're like me, you've basically tried everything under the sun to try to construct your goals in a helpful and meaningful way so that you can achieve them more readily. The SMART goal is the de facto standard when it comes to goal setting. SMART standing for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Every single time, though, I have set a SMART goal, one of these elements, or maybe more of them, have completely fallen off the rails. Let's think about it. A lot of times we put SMART goals on things that are more nebulous in nature. We'll put a deadline on something that doesn't actually have a deadline to try to force ourselves to get there. Sometimes this stress can be helpful, but many times it's actually a hindrance to us because now we've put a fail state, a fail condition on the very thing that we want to achieve. If I don't meet this timeline, if I don't hit this specific measurement, then I have failed to meet that goal. This, in my mind, is a black and white way to think about achieving something. When you're on the journey to learning something or growing something, you're making progress as long as you're moving forward, even if you don't hit a specific goal, such as hitting 100,000 subscribers on YouTube or something of that sort. In that journey, you've learned a ton. And so oftentimes a SMART goal does not take into consideration some of the ancillary things that happen along the way that are actually more meaningful than achieving the goal itself. So in my mind, one of the best things you can do to start thinking about goals in a healthy way is to throw the SMART goal out the window. Idea number two: decide who do you want to be. Any goal or movement forward in life is tied, at least best, to a vision of who you want to be and what you want to be doing with your life. So if you can get clear on who you want to be, the type of person that you want to live your life as. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean being fake or constructing a fake persona or something like that, fake it till you make it or anything like that. This is literally taking a self-assessment, trying to understand what I value most, and then making decisions on activities that line up with those values. Take, for example, I'm a person who wants to be heavily focused on my family. This means that there are decisions that are already made because this is a value. I am not going to be working a job that takes me away from home 75% of the year. I am not going to be working an 80-hour work week. In fact, one of the decisions that I have made, a goal that I have, is to stay working in remote jobs because working from home allows me to invest in my family more and in different ways than I would if I was working in an office, even locally in my small community. Now, just keep in mind that having this vision about yourself and what you want to do in your life does not have to be constrained to making money or your career achievements either. Keep it big picture. This is one of the things that I've seen goals fall apart on for so many different people, is that it's often so narrowly focused in one area of life that all of the other areas of life get neglected in the long run. And as a result, then life tends to fall apart over the course of time. So don't forget about your health. Don't forget about your family, your relationships, and other things as well as your career and your bank account. Idea number three: define a trajectory. So as we talked about, define who you want to be. Choose who you want to be, what you value. Make that really clear. Then pick a trajectory you want to set yourself on. I think trajectories are helpful ways to think about goals versus trying to have a distinctly defined goal. An example of a trajectory is a yearly theme. A yearly theme is what I use to guide my life over the course of a season, usually about a year. This theme is something that I set during my annual review, which I'll put a link in the corner up here to my annual review video if you want to check that out. But every year during December, I'm taking a look at the previous year seeing what went well, what didn't, where my life is at in the current state of things, and then making an adjustment and trying to set a trajectory for the next year. So, for example, some of my yearly themes have been the year of stabilization, the year of slowing down, and this year is the year of rebuilding. So, if you can guess probably what some of these themes are about, stabilization is about bringing some stability into my life. One of the goals for that was to find some stability in my productivity systems. The year of slowing down was literally about slowing down, doing less, making sure that I'm focusing on resting and building healthy rhythms of rest so that I don't find myself burnt out. And the year of rebuilding is both about building and reconstructing things that I need in my life at this time. So again, these trajectories are really high level and they're very broad based. A lot of things can fit under them. So then where do you go from here once you have some kind of a trajectory set? This is where number 4 comes in. Choose actions that line up with that trajectory. And this is where I like to use something called OKRs, or objectives and key results. Objectives are really the thing that you want to achieve. Now, in traditional OKR fashion, these are highly measurable. You can have a defined end goal where you can say, yep, I have achieved this thing. I don't always do that, but I do have a frame of here's where success looks like for this objective. So one of my objectives for this year, 2022, is building community. Again, you can kind of see the tie between 2022's theme, the year of rebuilding, and the objective, building community. There is a definite connection with that theme. And here's why. To dive into that a little bit deeper, I'm looking to build community and get more reinvested in certain relationships and people locally here. So I'm getting involved in some local organizations. I've been helping with a remote worker relocation program locally here, getting involved at our co-working space, and just making other connections inside of the community because the objective is to build community. Now, all of those actions that I just listed out, getting involved in organizations, helping out with the relocation program, and so on, those are the key results. Those are the actions that get me toward the objective. So in essence, you have your key results down here, which are the actions that you're taking to get to the objective, which is putting you on the trajectory toward your yearly theme. So then lastly, number 5, I think, is one of the most important ideas that you can get your head around when looking at goals, and it has to do with measurement. Measuring our goals often happens in days or weeks. Think of the traditional advice about losing weight. You get on the scale every single morning or every single week and you weigh yourself. So maybe in that first or second week, you're seeing an increase in weight, because your muscles are gaining strength and muscles weigh more than fat in your body. This is a normal process and it happens, but when you're measuring on such a short time scale, you don't necessarily see the trends. You don't necessarily see the progress. And so the idea here about measurement is to stop measuring things on such short timescales and instead to measure the results, the trajectory that you're on in months and years. The way that I do this is just through my annual review. Did I achieve this theme? Did I make progress in this direction? Did I look at these objectives? But when you measure results in months and years, that's when you start to see real change happen. Sure, you might be able to read a certain number of books in a month, but has that information actually changed the way that you live your life? The real way to look at that is how are you living your life in month 0 and how you're living your month now at month 12. I found that when you combine all of these things together, throw out SMART goals, decide who do you want to be, what do you value, defining a trajectory in something like a yearly theme for yourself, to choose actions and objectives and key results that line up with that trajectory, and then measure the results over months and years instead of days and weeks. I've actually found myself hitting more goals over the course of time than I could ever imagine. I have been able to see intentional progress in areas. Now, do I always hit monetary goals or numerical goals that I set for myself? Not always, but I always see growth. And so that's the last thing that I want to share today as a little bonus tip. is always look for growth, not just achievement. Because when you're looking for growth in yourself, if you're looking for progress, then you know that you're headed in a direction. It might not happen as quickly as you want it to. It might not look exactly the way that you dreamed it would, but when you measure yourself over a long period of time, you'll look back and say, yes, I made progress. And that is ultimately what we're after. Now, one of the things you need to have to be able to achieve your goals over the course of a longer period of time is the ability to focus. And if you're interested in some strategies and tips about how to focus yourself in the day-to-day, take a look at this video over here on 5 tips that I have to maintain your focus.